Alrighty. So let's get into the process and the method a little bit more because now we're going to start to put all the pieces together, and I'm going to paint the picture for you here and try to guide you because I want you to essentially know exactly how to get to the holy grail, to the finish line, aka a tech sales job opportunity that you're happy with. So how are we going to get there? We're going to do this through what I call mass approaching. And I alluded to it earlier. It's the fact that we are mass approaching about 60 companies so we can uh, get out any flaws out of our game and improve throughout the process so that by the time we get to our ideal 15, um, then at that point, we're pretty much kind of like refined killers, right? We're sharp. We know exactly what we're doing. We know how to get what we want and get to the target. And so that's why this is titled Mass Approaching to prove that your resume works and landing your first practice interviews. That's really the goal here. In this phase, I don't expect any of you to get offers. And if you do, great. Please email me and tell me about your success story. I'd love to hear about it. But for the most part, in general, a lot of you are going to struggle in the initial phases, and that's 100% expected. We are using high volume to our advantage. So the idea is simple. I want you to be able to successfully land interviews and progress through the initial 1 to 3 stages of those interviews before you go and chase your big dogs, your top picks, the companies that you put on that spreadsheet that um, that are really like vetted, right? You look them up on Glassdoor, you look them up on their website and their case studies, and you look them up on G2. You know that they're the shit. So before you get to that, before you go put yourself in front of them, I really want you to be good. And that's what the point of this process is, which I'll go to in a minute. Once that's done, once you've gone through a couple of practice interviews with companies that are low stakes, then you're ready to go and chase your ideal 15. But don't, and listen to this part, don't shoot your shot and apply to all 60 companies in 1 week. I'm intentionally asking you to separate the application process so that we can identify the issues early on and fix them before we go to those ideal 15. And one note that I want to add here is that everything is an approximation. The number of companies that you end up applying to and interviewing with, how long it'll take you to actually get an offer, etc. All of this is obviously going to vary a little bit by individual. Overall, the numbers I think are pretty accurate, and if not, a couple points away from what you'd be anyway. Maybe you don't apply to 60 companies. Maybe you have a really tough time and you end up actually closer to 70 or 80. That's 100% okay, but as long as you expect that and you anticipate that. Some of you are naturally better with people and are more charismatic, and you're a rock star. People love you no matter where you go. You might not need an interview with 60 companies. Maybe it'll be more like 20 or 30. Everyone's going to be a little bit different, but still keep in mind the roadmap and the guidelines that I'm mentioning here, and follow the process as best as you can. The numbers will be a little bit different, obviously, but in general, these numbers are accurate. So this is what the roadmap is going to look like, and this is kind of touching on that last bullet point about not shooting your application and resume to 60 companies in day one. You don't need to do that. I recommend you don't do that. It should actually look something like this. Round one, month one, is your mistakes round. I want you to apply the first, this is the first round of the 20 companies that you're going to apply to. And I want you to expose the flaws in your game. So I want you to be writing down the questions that you get asked that throw you off. I want you to write down the parts that really challenge you in the interview and bring them to me. I want you to really just write everything down that you're struggling with and be aware of them. It's okay to screw up. That's the idea. I want you to become aware of what it is specifically to you that you're doing wrong. Some people are going to be some people are too quiet and they know it. So that's going to be some of the people listening to this. Other folks are actually not quiet. In fact, maybe they're a little bit too loud. They talk too fast or get too excited, and then they mess up the interview. So I want you to kind of sparse it out. And, month one, we should just be reserving to about 20 companies, and give or take a month. It might be a couple more weeks. It might actually even be less. It really depends. Again, we're generalizing here. And then in round two, which is month two, the warm up round, now we're planning the next 20 companies. And at this point, we don't want to be just aware of our flaws. We actually want to be actively getting better at them, rehearsing in front of a mirror, writing down the answers that we want to give so that we further memorize them in our brain. And anticipating everything that we're going to get asked. So at this point, we want to be like really getting better and improving. Um, and the goal here is to get through the second round and into the final rounds of the interview process. In month one, really my only goal for you is that you can at least get past the initial call with the recruiter. If you can get past the first one, and you do that, repeatedly, you're in good shape. Now you're ready to move on to the warm up round. But at the warm up round, you should be able to get past the first interview and the second interview and start to head into the final stages with companies. At this point, some of you might even get an offer, but it's still too soon. This happens to me all the time. I start to get really comfortable interviewing, and I feel confident, maybe even a little bit arrogant. I think I got it in the bag. I think I got the job opportunity in the bag. And then what ends up happening is I actually get lazy and I mess it up. So what ends up happening, I get too excited about the opportunity, so confident about it that I actually end up under delivering because I overestimated my own ability. So this happens all the time. I expect you to get to the final rounds and get close to getting an offer and then not getting one. And I'm sure you guys are going to be disappointed at that stage, but that's actually completely expected. Don't even be caught off guard by it. That's going to lead us into month three, the ideal 15 round. The ideal 15 round is really where we tackle that list of companies that we put on that spreadsheet, that, those companies that we vetted and that we looked up on Glassdoor and that we looked up on, on G2.com. At this point, we want to have minimal flaws in our game. We're still going to make mistakes. Interviews are nerve-wracking and high stakes, but more often than not, we should be pretty sharp. And the goal here is to get all the way to the final round successfully and end up with one or two offers, or maybe even three. But one or two offers is pretty good. And as mentioned, by the end of this, it'll be about 60 companies that we had applied to. We won't obviously be chatting with all 60, probably going to be closer to 20. And then the entire process, give or take, takes about 90 days, about 3 months. If you're better, it might take you actually 1 month, maybe two. But for a lot of folks, it really takes them a while to get the hang of the whole interview process and improve and iterate. And it actually takes closer to 90 days. But the idea here is that, again, you're doing your applications in cadences. So the first week is, 5 to 10 companies just doing applications. Second week is interviews. Third week is applications. Again, you might even have interviews in your third week because they're still going on from the early applications. Then interviews again. And then you repeat this cycle and apply to 20 again the next month until you get to your ideal 15 round. So That's what, in general, this process should look like and what you should expect. Hope this helps paint the picture for you and helps you anticipate exactly what you're going to face so that you can start mentally preparing for it now. And in one of the future lessons, I'm actually going to go into the mindset of interviewing. But for now, just kind of let this all settle in. Don't apply to anything yet. I'll tell you when, but just expect what's going to be happening.